Hello, I'm Judson Jacobs, and I'm a research director with IHS Markit in our upstream group, where I help to lead our technology and innovation practice.
And I'm Carolyn Seto with IHS Markit, also in the upstream technology and innovation practice.
So Carolyn, we've seen some real changes over the last few years due to some of the market conditions around how oil companies and energy companies in general are approaching technology and innovation. And we've really seen them shift from some of these long-term capital-intensive projects to more shorter-term ones, and ones that can really begin to drive both lower cost as well as increase efficiency in the industry. And some of the things we're seeing around capital efficiency improvements, around drilling efficiency improvements. But it's been really impressive, and it's really been a bit of a sharp turn over the last few years.
That's a really great observation, Judd. And the technologies that we're seeing that are helping these companies be more efficient and be more reliable are these digital technologies coming from outside of the energy industry, perfected in the consumer space. We're also seeing technologies that are more cross-cutting, so nanotechnology, new material science, and another thing that we're seeing that is cross-cutting across the entire energy value chain is this resurgence of climate change issues with the Paris Accord and just with a greater social awareness of the impact of climate change on technology. So we're seeing energy companies get back into clean energy. We're also seeing the resurgence of carbon capture and sequestration too.
That's right. And, one of the things that we talk about quite a bit, and one of the things that we study is that with this kind of expansion, I guess, of the range of technologies that companies are looking at, and especially as they move outside of the oil and gas space or outside of the energy space and look to consumer technologies like digital technologies and some of the climate change ones, is that they're actually expanding their sources of innovation. They can no longer just begin to look at internal R&D, but they're really focusing on, well, how can we tap into some of these innovations that are taking place outside? Some of that's through partnerships both with industrials and some of the technology companies. We've seen those rapidly increase over the past few years, and especially around kind of some of these integrated services. We've also seen this rise in corporate venture activity. And as companies begin to invest in early stage energy technology companies and really begin to tap into some of this innovation that's taking place in other places where the animal spirits are quite strong. And then I guess lastly, there was one we see as well is this globalization of innovation. As companies begin to look beyond their own country borders, and they look for clusters, they look for areas where they can really begin to tap into some of these real good sources and kind of communities of innovation that are taking place. It's been really fascinating to watch and sustain themselves and grow over the last few years.
And as we see, these sources of innovation open up, and companies no longer hold that proprietary advantage of developing technologies internally. A number of emerging questions that we're seeing and that we'll explore in the Innovation Agora are what is now the source of competitive differentiation for these companies? Is it in the strength of their partnerships that you've mentioned? Or is it in the strength of how these organizations are best able to adapt these technologies from outside of the industry, adapt them and adopt them, and just adapt them at a much faster pace than their competitors. Yeah. So it's very interesting space that we're going to see.
I mean, there's a lot of interesting strategic themes and tactical themes of applying technology, and I hope you'll be able to join us at CERAWeek, IHS Markit CERAWeek 2018, and to hear about some of them. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.